me to my second point in what I learned by staying at the houses of hardworking Aggies is the importance of my education and how far it can take me. On this trip with Arrow, Aggies Reaching Out, like I've said before, we went to McAllen, Texas for a week at the end of May to visit Lincoln Middle School 8th graders and encourage them to continue their education and to go to college, since the majority of them drop out in high school mainly for the reason thinking that they can't afford it. And we went to show them that there's no excuse of not going and continuing their education, because there are ways to make it happen, and we wanted to tell them that because we want them to better themselves and better their lives and for their families that didn't know about this information. And while we were on this trip, we got to stay at former Aggies' homes who volunteered to be part of this experience by giving us a place to stay instead of our organization having to go pay for a hotel for the week for us to be there and encourage these 8th graders to continue their education. And while we got to stay at these former Aggies' homes, we got to hear about where they came from to where they are now, and mainly from the reason of continuing their education and going to college. And it showed from the luxuries and the wonderful families that they had. And the family that 3 girls from my group and myself got to stay at was this lady who was an interior designer and had a beautiful, beautiful house that had a lot of property where she had horses out back and dogs and cats and a lot of animals everywhere. And we got to stay in her pool house that had its own kitchen and bathroom and living room and game room and beds for us to stay in upstairs. And I saw the fruit of her education and hard work from the home that she had. So when we visited the former Aggies' homes, all I could think about was just how lovely their homes were, and not just because of the luxuries they had and the property, however much property they had, and the big houses, but made me remember because of how they remembered how they got to that point and why I'm working so hard in completing my education, because I just want to support or help support my family the way that these families were supporting theirs. All I want is for my family to live the life that my parents worked so hard without an education to give me, and now that I have the opportunity to go and complete my education, I know that I can give my family what they deserve, as well as being able to give back to my parents for all that they have given me. Having an education sets no limits in what my goals can be, and do what I love so it never feels like a day of work, which leads me to my third point in what I learned on this trip, and that to never lose sight of my goals and what I really love to do, because it really is all possible if I continue to put the work it takes to reach that goal. And my goal is to one day work for ESPN in the Department of Marketing and Sales. And my first step in making this goal possible is by majoring in sports management. And I plan to get an internship that will allow me to have the opportunity and experience in that field, and not having to step out into the real world and completely start from scratch. And if I can get the internship at ESPN, that would give me an even bigger advantage over the other employees fighting for that position once I graduate from college. And this year I finally get to start on my classes for my major, and I could not be more excited. And being on this trip just helped me remember why I'm getting an education and going to college, for the reason of being able to do what I love for a living, and not just going to college because it's what I'm supposed to do in society. And as I know that the job positions in sports management majors are male dominant, I'm willing to work even harder to prove myself because this is what I'm most passionate about. So taking technical writing in view of my goal of writing for ESPN this summer in the first summer session was a great learning experience, and I learned more than what I thought I was going to about the workplace and how to stand out in a positive light, above the rest of the crowd. It's still a learning process for me, but I'm very excited for what comes next and learn and improve in my writing and speech skills so that I can reach the goals I set out for myself. And as Albert Einstein once said, in every difficulty lies opportunity. So in conclusion, the 3 things I learned have helped me in remembering what goals I set out for myself, and that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get there, but once I do, it'll all be worth it to me, as well as the people who helped me get there and the family I plan to have in the future.